Most of the evidence brought to the Truth Commission on the last 11 months concerned human rights violations in the 1980s. But resistance to white minority rule started many decades ago, and we as South Africans should remember the early struggles of our people. That is what the Truth Commission's Human Rights Violations Committee did in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape this week. This time, the heroes who gave testimony were not angry young lions. They were dignified grandfathers.
Chief Msiza led the Pondo people from Swaziland into Natal, and the Pondo people are closely associated with the Swazi people. Pondos migrated to the Transkei and occupied the now eastern Pondoland area around 1600. In 1844, Paramount Chief Faku was recognized by the British as the Lord of Pondoland. When Faku's heir died, civil war broke out and Pondoland fell back into British rule. It was only in the 1960s that Pondo people took decisive action and stood up against the imposition of Bantu authorities onto them. And they were met with considerable force by the government. This oppression was maintained when Chief Kaiser Matanzima, who was prepared to conform with government policy, took over in 1963. These are the Musa Mountains in Flagstaff, where the Pondoland massacre occurred in 1960. The Pondo people were fighting against the then Black Authorities Act of 1951 and the introduction of taxes by the government. Mr. Clement Gabu and Simon Silangwe were present during the day of the shooting on Musa Hill. In 1960, during the Pondo revolt, we were here. We first sighted a mountain overlooking here. We then came closer. On the 13th, we were across from here onto the mountain top. That is where we were disturbed by flying aircraft. We then left that place, and on the 6th, we were down here where we were killed. We were beaten for not wanting the past system, the fencing off of our land, Bantu education, and the introduction of taxes, which meant paying for our own cows. Those were the things we did not want. We wanted to be represented at Parliament. It is very important for this event to be placed in history because it is one of the past activities that led to the existence of our new dispensation. It all started because Pondo people striked the way that we did. So much so a commission was set up led by Mr. Abraham coming from Pretoria, concerned as to what bothered us. We then told him that we did not want eavesdroppers who were the Boers at the time. A person would represent us, but knowing nothing about our culture or beliefs, including problems. We further said that we did not want to be represented by another nation. The Black nation is large enough. Let there be people who will stand for us at Parliament in Cape Town. The Pondo revolt was resistance against the introduction of taxes by the government via the chiefs, which meant Pondo people had to use their livestock as payment. When the revolt started, all the chiefs ran away from 1960. Some even went to Mzimkhulu. It then came to our attention that people were frustrated. They wanted to farm. They wanted to build. So the committee was started here on the mountains so that if anyone needed land, they should be given land, regardless of going to the chief, because they were not there anymore. It was only the steering committee. One thing I don't want to forget is that the time we went there, we saw that we were going to be shot. So we then had to bath ourselves in African medicines. We were bathed by a fella by the name of Mapiga. He smeared ointment onto us so that the police would not beat us up. Because we had no guns, but just our traditional weapons, he said we should not go to Musa Mountain. Adolphus Cele is also one of the victims who was shot on the day of the Musa Hill massacre.
The chiefs were called in Umtata, and there were two things which were decided there. One of them was about the land and the other one about the money. And they were made to choose between the two, money or land. Most of them chose the money.
It was on the fateful day of June the 6th that the Pondo Mountain Committee members found themselves helpless and overpowered. The aircraft appeared and circulated above Musa Mountain. We were now seated at the foot of the hill. The second one came after that one, and then came the helicopter, which offloaded policemen at the top of the hill. It never landed. Another came, painted with army colors, and dropped off some more police on the opposite side of Musa Hill. They then all started coming towards us. We did not even expect any clashes, because none of us had weapons except Warner Johnson, He had a gun. He had come with his revolver, our commander. They wasted no time. They had not come to talk. They then fired. Warner Johnson then stood up and called them closer. As he did that, they shot him. He was the first person to be shot. That's when we saw that they meant war. When he fell next to our feet, the second victim was Ngingilishi Nganda. We then jumped. Our young leader, Mr. Makaka, shouted to us and said, "Into them, you Pondo men of my father, sons of Chief Faku, even if we have nothing." When another shot went off, he would say it's the last one, but the gunfire just kept on going. He would still say every bullet is the last one, yet people were starting to turn back behind us. When you think of it, whilst we were being shot, the helicopters were also above us, with police hanging on the sides, also shooting down at us. We were being shot as all this happens. I think it took us, we were shot from 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock that evening. That's when they left us, after we had run into the bush. After the events of Musa Hill, rural Pondoland was thrown into turmoil. The government refused to bury the dead. Men were arrested, some disappeared and have never been found since. On the day of the hearings, the Truth Commission took time off to commemorate the victims of the Musa Mountain massacre, and a wreath was laid in their honor. When we look forward, we want a monument to be erected, whereby all the names of those who were shot in 1960 must be written on it, including the committee members, so that children and their parents can know about the fight for freedom by their great-grandfathers, and this is where they are sleeping. On the 6th of June 1960, 11 people were killed and 58 injured during the Pondoland revolt. All the victims asked for is a monument to be built on this hill for those who died.